This has become a joyous norm, the regal routine of a glorious team for the third successive season. Once more, in 2023, Manchester City are the champions.
Oh, Akanji caught in possession. Here comes Son against City.
1 year later, and we're here. Sung is through on goal in a game which City can't even draw. Man City, with a game in hand, are leading the Premier League table. And despite the efforts from an historic Arsenal side, we find ourselves in a position in which Sung has the fate of the entire league on his shoulders. But how? Man City are en route to be making more history than ever, averaging 104 points over the course of 6 seasons, becoming the first team since Man United to experience this much domestic success. And if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, it's all because of one man, and one man only.
Yeah.
It's February 1st, 2016, and after 3 years with Pellegrini and only one Premier League title, Man City had decided to appoint Bayern's Pep Guardiola during the summer of that year. Prior to this role, Pep had been the manager of Barcelona B from 2007 to 2008, eventually getting the chance to manage the first team. This would lead Pep to a historic few years with the Blaugrana, winning 14 out of the possible 19 in 4 years. He would average a trophy every 18 games, with a record of 179 wins, 47 draws, and 21 losses. I mean, Pep's Barca is one of the best sides in football history. A reason for this is Pep's tactics, which revolutionized football, inspiring the current generation of players and even managers. But at the time, especially in Barcelona, the critics were very harsh to Pep, causing him to eventually leave Barca and their entire dynasty. Getting scooped up by Bayern, Pep struggled at first, but found his footing in the Bundesliga, dominating domestically but not finding his feet in Europe. Now with Pep in City, a club trying to find its space in the footballing world, just like Pep is trying to replicate what he had done in the previous seasons. But this would be completely different from his time from Barca and Bayern. I mean, there's only one thing that's different, and that's the money. City were purchased in 2008, and this takeover was definitely the catapult to their recent success. Even though they had some domestic success before Pep's arrival, it does not compare to the achievements this current City side has accomplished. And while money for sure was the difference for this City side, it wasn't how much they spent, but how they spent it. Compared to even other English clubs, City have spent their money well. Beyond the money, over the years the team has had something that not other teams have. This Pep team has built this special factor when it comes to the second half of the season. I mean, no matter what happens before January, they could lose as many games as they want, and this team musters up the results to win the title. I mean, in the 2021 season, City were as low as 8th place on Christmas and managed to win the league by 12 points. This team has some of the best players in the world who always show up when it matters most. Leading this line of great players is an absolute psychopathic technician trying to plot some crazy new football idea wherever he gets the chance. But what we're seeing this season, just like the previous seasons before this, isn't something that comes from thin air. Pep and City have been molded into playing this way for years now, molded into being cold-blooded, thoughtless, systematic monsters. I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I honestly believe that some people might actually agree with that statement. It wasn't really easy for Pep and City to play this way though. So let's go back to see how Pep created this current Premier League dynasty. When Pep was first appointed, the team wasn't bad, reaching the semi-finals of the Champions League, even having a close game with Madrid. But there was many pieces in that team that were not the real difference makers that they needed. This led to many signings within Pep's first transfer window. Guardiola brought in several players in the summer, including Gundogan from Dortmund, Nolito from Celta Vigo, Sane from Schalke, and John Stones from Everton. He also controversially replaced Joe Hart with Bravo from Barcelona. So, I mean, how did City do as Pep with their new manager and all these signings in the first season? Yeah, I mean, a bit disappointing. Somewhat expected though, because until that point, Pep had always played possession. While it could have potentially worked in the Premier League at the time, it was a much stronger and faster league. After this season, however, this is where it all changed for Man City. Going into this 2017-18 season, Pep wanted to come with more firepower, bringing in players like Ederson as a new first-choice goalkeeper, wingbacks Mendy and Walker were also signed, as well as Bernardo Silva from Monaco and Danilo from Real Madrid. City will go on to win the EFL Cup and get 100 points in the Premier League. 100. Like, unheard of. Being the first team in the Premier League history to do so. And if that wasn't enough for anybody, the very next season, they got 98 points to win back-to-back leagues and a respectable 81 points in the 2019-20 season where Liverpool got themselves 99 points. So while City were a very great team, they had all-time teams going up against them to challenge for this title. One thing I haven't mentioned throughout the entirety of these seasons though is one title that they failed to get through, and which is the only reason Pep was even appointed for. In England, only 5 clubs have won the Champions League, and Pep's Man City have tried to win this cup several times. I mean, there's several games in which they have really lacked what they needed to get this title here. The game against Monaco, the game against Liverpool, the game against Spurs, the game against Lyon, the final against Chelsea, and another game against Madrid. Disappointment after disappointment, but unlike the media in Barcelona, the domestic success almost allowed the club and Pep some time to think of ways to get at it again the next year. And in Pep's tenure, the signings weren't immediately the best player in their position. Pep's time in City had been one of the true teachings and learnings for him and his players, and then something changed.
Are you happy, Will? Yeah. So in 3, 2, 1.
And that change was a blonde Norwegian Viking that decided to crash land in England. Erling Haaland was, and still is, one of the best, if not the best, at finishing, a world-class striker. Put him in a City team which knows how to possess the ball, create chances, and I mean, you probably hit the jackpot. City would finally win the Champions League, competing a treble along the way. Now, that brings us all full circle to the game against Spurs, and this is a team which has caused them so much trouble in the past. Pep has even stated how hard it is to win against them. They can't lose or draw, otherwise they lose the title. And like I said before, City loved the second half of the season. In 2024, other than a defeat in pens to Real Madrid, Man City are undefeated in 25 games. All the struggles of the previous season this team had experienced is what's trained them for the second half of the season to be resilient. Sometimes though, practice and experiences only get you so far. Sometimes you need to have it in you to get it done, and other times something unexplainable happens.
Against City again.